You're welcome back to the marketplace. Thank you very much for staying. Now, Ghana ranked C in the latest customer service index ranking, with the telcos industry scoring 4th below the retail, hospitality and online sectors, following recent sanctions by the NCA on some 4 telcos for failing to meet quality of service requirements. Players in the industry have been urged to invest heavily in customer service. Yvonne Ohui is CEO of the Institute of Customer Service Professionals.
The overall feeling, I see it's never a good thing for customer experience.
What is it that the telcos are getting wrong?
They're getting the whole thing wrong. You know, when you're paying for a service, you expect the service to be good. You expect to have a good experience. One of the things that we know is that you're dealing with technology. So, of course, once in a while when there are measures or integrations, there'll be problems. But the question now is, how do you even inform your customers before these things happen? Whilst they're happening, what are you doing to make sure that your customers are okay? So it's not so much what they're doing wrong. It's their understanding and willingness to do what is right.
Also about the financial sector, the banking industry, for instance, they perform marginally well. And what could be the magic to this performance as well?
I wouldn't say it's magic. I think the banking sector and the public sector should be the ones that are having A's, because apart from the telcos, they have a larger, customer base. So even with all that number, they couldn't manage an A with all the players that they have under the financial sector. So I wouldn't say that they did too well. There's a lot more they have to do, considering the fact that they keep our money.
Meanwhile, my colleague Charles Aite, who attended the maiden edition of the Ghana Customer Service Index, has been engaging some Ghanaians on what they make of the NCA's sanction against some telcos which failed to meet the quality of service requirements. They've been speaking at the sidelines of their presentation.
We've been joined by 3 gentlemen at the British Council. They've been sitting through the Customer Service Index presentation today to help us understand their side of the story and how they could even be relating to this whole news if they really are in the very first place. Many thanks, gentlemen, for being with us at the shortest time. Let me start with you, Isidolf. So, not to mention the name of your network, but how difficult or easy is it to access your network?
Well, I want to tell a story. I have a startup, a technology company, and one of the things you want to do when setting up a company is to have internet connectivity in your office. So we applied. It was possible to apply online, so we did so. And we were made to understand that it was going to take 24 hours for the technical team to respond back to us. But it took more than 3 days, I remember. So we had to call, and we eventually went to the office. And after going to the office, they had to take another 30 days before they could come and do the installation. It was very terrible because we were made to understand that this service could take about a week, to be provided to us. And so that's the story I have to tell. And that tells you how difficult it is to access their services.
That's a very depressing story. I believe you also have a story to sell, Kelvin.
Well, it's the way you use the products that its telcos are giving to you. For someone like me, I have one network that I use for calls, and I have another network I use for data, which I prefer that I had one that I could use for all these 2 services, because one is giving me something, but it's not giving me all, and the other is giving me the other, but it's not giving me all. So that's what sometimes you find yourself. You want an exclusive service which you can get from one network, but then you have to be looking at 2 services. In
your move, you have jumbled everything together to get a very quality service.
Yes, I think I agree with him totally, because it's about value, and then we are putting a lot of money into purchasing a lot of their services. But yes, still, when you look at what you are putting in and the value that you are getting out, it can be compared to it. It's not more about the advertisement. It's not more about the billboards and other things. It's just about the value that the customer wants. So
just to move on to the next question, maybe show by hand, how many of you feel shortchanged by the service providers in the country today? Just show by hand if you feel shortchanged. Yeah, as in you give him much more, but you get less. Just show by hand.
I think I deserve more.
All of you do feel shortchanged. Okay, but we have been sitting through the presentation this morning. We've had the customer service index being outdoored, and we've had understanding that the telcos industry scored a C, and we're even having customer loyalty move into the negative. How concerned are you, first of all, to you as a startup?
Well, I'm very concerned because they hold an important segment of the economy, infrastructure, telecommunications infrastructure. I mean, they provide a technology through which we communicate to other people, to clients, to our families. So their services are very important, and we can only expect the best of these services. But
what I would say is that it's all about regulation. If you have the regulation there and it's enforced, we'll get them to work and we'll deliver the best that we want. And so I believe it's all about the NCA putting a lot of tightening its belt and making sure that this doesn't just end here as just one thing and then we go back and then sleep. But yet still we are on them to make sure that they deliver the best that they could because we value it and we expect that from them.
I think they have to invest in more modern technologies like fiber optic. All of them are doing that now, especially the first, the two bigger ones, MTN and Vodafone. Yeah, they are doing that because with the amount of information that's been transported through the internet these days, we will need more sophisticated technology infrastructure to support the circulation of this data. So
technological age, we are still far behind. So how then do we tackle this if we cut all these telcos and we are now going to bring in new telcos? That won't help.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your perspectives on this one. We're so grateful. So you just did hear not just stories, but perspectives on how best we could perfect the system when it comes to the telcos industry in the country. Of course, the customer service index is what we shall be looking forward to in the future and its impact, especially when it comes to both sectors. So the telcos industry, we're talking of the hospitality sector, we've been talking of the banking industry. We shall be dissecting each and every part of it for your own understanding. But as it stands now, people are just not perturbed about what happens to these telcos. As they say, they're not surprised. Services are very poor. There's more to be done, and of course more investment would have to be intuited in this very regard. For Joy Business, I'm Charles Aite reporting.
Many thanks, Charles, for that incisive report there. Now, PricewaterhouseCoopers, the receivers for the defunct UT and Capital banks, say the workers could get all their entitlements paid depending on funds raised from sale of the bank's assets. The assurance is coming from an initial communication which sought to give an impression that the workers might not be getting anything at all. There's more in this report.
According to the current laws on liquidation, there are several interest groups that need to be settled before workers can be considered. In the case of UT and Capital banks, one can talk about the creditors, government, Bank of Ghana, and the Ghana Revenue Authority before staff and shareholders are considered. This led to the receivers earlier on arguing that it might be difficult to pay out the severance package to the workers. But in what can be described as a U-turn, the receivers say there is something on the table for the workers. Vish Ashiagbo is country partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Their exit packages, we've settled that with the unions. Now it's just a matter of cash flow. Right, so there's no dispute that they're entitled to something. It's there, it's inked in black and white. But it's a cash flow issue, it's a liquidity issue. Once we get the cash, go through the waterfall. When I say waterfall, I'm talking about the order of ranking. And, we'll pay when we get to that stage.
The Finance Minister, Ken Oforiatta, has also disclosed that he is working with the Bank of Ghana for some initial payment of 45 million cedis to be paid to the workers this Christmas on humanitarian grounds. For some, this development should come as good news for the workers who have been struggling to make ends meet after the collapse of the two banks since last year.
Let's also stay in banking. As the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana holds its 85th regular meeting with an announcement of a new policy rate on Monday, 26 November. Now, this would be the committee's last meeting for the year as it takes some crucial decisions on the banking sector. George Biafe looks at other issues expected to dominate discussions over the next 3 days.
The committee, which is chaired by the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, is starting their meeting from this morning after the pre-MPC meeting, which began on Monday. This actually saw the technical directors at the central bank assess the necessary data for it to be scrutinized by members of this committee from this morning. Sources say they'll be looking at coming up with some additional measures to firmly stabilize the Ghana cedi, which has witnessed some blips over the past 3 weeks, dealing with some of the banks that are said to be still facing some financial challenges. or called them the troubled banks. We can also not forget about decisions that they will take which could impact on the cost of credit in the country, with this policy rate which stands at 15%. At a recent Joy Business Forum in Accra, Second Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Elsie Awaji, said that 20 commercial banks have met the minimum capital requirement. So, with about 40 days to December 31, it could be that 13 commercial banks are racing to meet this deadline. The meeting would end on Friday with the policy rate announcement next Monday.
All right, so the Monetary Policy Committee meetings is always followed by the announcement of a new policy rate. But one would ask, what has been the trend of the rate decisions, implications, and impact over the course of the year, especially as this remains the last meeting for the year 2018? Joy Business's researcher and analyst Philip Naufuri will walk us through this. Philip.
Hello, Emmanuel. Thank you very much. Well, like you rightly said, this is the last meeting for the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana. Over the course of the year, they've had 5 meetings. This will be the 6th. They meet on a bi-monthly basis. So every 2 months, this Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana meets. And it's established within the Bank of Ghana Act, or it's in law. They're supposed to meet to review the health of the economy. So over the course of the meetings this year, this is data from their website. And you can see that they've met January, the rate was at 20%. And in March, the rate was at 18%. Then we had another meeting in May, then another one in July, one in September, and then we're going to see this one that's taking place in November, finish up on Monday with the announcement of the rate. Currently, the rate stands at 17%. Now, if you look at this chart I have here, again from the Bank of Ghana's website, you realize that over the course of the year, I even took us back to last year, November, you've seen that the policy rate has trended down largely. You may ask yourself, what exactly is the essence of the Monetary Policy Committee? Now, the Bank of Ghana's primary role is maintaining price stability. That's inflation. So their job is to control the numbers, make sure that inflation doesn't spiral out of control and affect the prices at which you and I buy goods and services. So that's the primary role of the Bank of Ghana. The other parts we see is their role in the banking sector. But with the essence of the monetary policy rate, they are supposed to adjust this rate to affect lending rates in the economy, which will again control the inflation. Now, we always make the argument that we don't see lending rates coming down and it's difficult for you and I to borrow. So, Emmanuel, in April 2018, the Bank of Ghana realized that its monetary policy rate was not really affecting lending rates in the economy. So they, together with the Ghana Association of Bankers, came out with the Ghana reference rate. Now, what this means is that it's supposed to help interest rates connect with monetary policy rate. Currently, as I speak to you, the weights in this Ghana reference rate are as follows: 40% for the monetary policy rate, 20% for the interbank lending rate, and 40% for the 91-day treasury bill rate. So it means that if the monetary policy rate drops and the treasury rate drops, all things being equal, then we should see a drop in the lending rates. However, this new lending rate scheme was introduced in April 2018. So we have a backlog of old lending rates that are still in the economy, and it's going to take some time before the new rates kick in. So essentially, as we speak today, from the Bank of Ghana, you can see that lending rates have averaged about 27%, and that's as of August 2018. And you realize that the Monetary Policy Committee is very important. They review developments in the economy. They look at the external economy. How are things in the United States, for example, affecting us as we trade primarily in the US dollar? Emmanuel.
All right, so Philip, would you say that the reference rate is actually affecting or pushing down the lending rates as desired by industry?
Okay, so the reference rates from the Ghana Association of Bankers website as at November 2018 stands at 16.35%. Now, this is the rates at which banks should refer to before they start lending to you and I. So they can add their premium to this and maybe you can see a lending rate of about 20%. However, because this was introduced in April 2018, we are just in November, it's going to see some time. My engagements with bankers in the treasury departments and the like say that it's going to take some time for this new lending rate to kick in. You know, the old lending rate was based on the base rate model and it was somewhat expensive. It made lending rates very high. But over the course of the year, lending rates have trended down largely, albeit marginally. But we should see that over the course of the next year, 2019, we should see some modest reduction. All things being equal, that's if the Monetary Policy Committee decides to hold the rate or bring it lower at 70% where it is now, and other factors such as the 91-day treasury bill rate and the interbank lending rate, that's the bank rate at which the banks lend amongst themselves. If all come down, all things being equal, we should see lending rates in the economy come down.
All right, many thanks for that update. Philip Namfuri is an in-house analyst. He's been talking to us about the current sitting of the MPC and, of course, following the announcement, of course, of the new policy rate next Monday. Away from that, head of tax policy unit at the Ministry of Finance, Daniel Nue, has been defending government's decision to introduce the no tin, no social service policy. He maintains the tax identification number would help widen the tax net to fund some government interventions, including the free SHS program. Speaking to Joy Business at the post-budget tax seminar for stakeholders in Accra, head of the tax policy unit justified the need for every Ghanaian to register for a tin.
The tax identification number 10 is a unique number provided by the Ghana Revenue Authority after going through a registration process as a tax complaint citizen under the Revenue Administration Act. The move by the Ministry of Finance is to ensure that citizens become tax compliant before they are allowed to benefit from government social intervention programs and policies. It is also aimed at ensuring that all Ghanaians obtain tins to assist government in monitoring the income earning size of the citizenry. In an interview at the sidelines of a post-budget dissemination seminar on tax policies outlined in the 2019 budget, head of tax policy unit at the Ministry of Finance, Daniel Nue, urged everyone to get the tin so they could enjoy social government policies.
The issue of no tin, no social services, that the social service being provided to you must be paid for. Who is going to pay for it? We are going to pay for it. And as I said, some of us have a little to contribute, so let's contribute a little. Someone has a lot to contribute, the person will contribute a lot. We all don't pay the same taxes. The more income you earn, the more tax you pay, so that it helps everybody. That is the general idea. And as you said, yes, we need to get that message across that. And I'll say it again. That's why if you look at the 6 pillars on which this budget is, there's one which is called the social partnership, because that is important. That partnership is important for all of us to understand our role in the economy when it comes to this.
He explains why non-income earners must also have the tin.
We have a lot of policies, and the idea has been that we don't want to introduce or increase taxes, because there are quite a number of taxes in the system. The idea is to get people to pay them, get them to understand why they should pay, and make sure that they pay. We've put in systems like the tax identification number helps GRA to have an idea of the number of people who exist, who should be paying taxes, and to follow up and collect the taxes. In terms of the ministry, what it does is that it allows us to know the number of people who are supposed to be and draw policies to that extent.
The Ministry of Finance has advised parents and guardians who do not have a tin to register or obtain them from the Ghana Revenue Authority to avoid the inconvenience of not being able to access government social interventions.
Now, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta says government has no intention of bailing out customers of gold dealership firm Men's Gold. According to him, people must be responsible for their actions. The minister said this when he spoke as part of the Capital Market Conference, which opened in Accra yesterday. There's more in this report.
In his presentation as part of discussions for the program, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta indicated why it would not be prudent to bail out customers of Men's Gold.
I know the SEC has come down hard and strong and justifiably on Men's Gold, but the issue of a company like Men's Gold is, as I even look at the Ministry of Finance, and I see some people at the Ministry of Finance who have invested there. I look at the Bank of Ghana, and I see some people at the Bank of Ghana who have invested there, and of course the military, etc. So it becomes an issue of greed as a people and our own behavior when we are so clear, as educated as we might be, that when we went there was no license, and we chose them to do that. I think it is not in the place of government to fund or get your money back for you. It was an obvious trap that you went into. But maybe we as an industry should also push the whole issue of education.
The The third Capital Market Conference brought all players in the capital market to deliberate on issues in the market as well as reflect on 20 years of capital market operations in the country by the Securities and Exchange Commission. The senior minister, Yao Osafo-Marfo, who gave the keynote address, disclosed that the government is working to list profitable state-owned enterprises on the Ghana Stock Exchange.
Regarding state-owned enterprise, can we explore the question, will there be improved efficiency and profitability if some of them are listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange? Can we enhance good corporate governance with such move? Such move have successfully used in the United Kingdom under Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. We in Ghana have done so before. In 2001, a strategic partner was identified for Ghana Commercial Bank, and the government was asked under a program to divest 40% of Ghana Commercial Bank to a strategic investor.
Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Reverend Daniel Ogbamitete, on his part noted that a lot has happened over the past 20 years and that they are optimistic about the coming years.
We can say that there has been a lot that has happened under the watch of the SEC, and we can only look forward to doing better, to building on the successes that have been achieved in the past 20 years to do better. Since I went to SEC, we have indicated that we will be focusing a lot on education, on enforcement, and then market development. I think that as we are able to commit to execute our strategies in these areas, we will see the market moving forward.
The conference is expected to resume tomorrow with a focus on corporate governance and funding for capital market development.
The Ghana National Petroleum Company, GNPC, Foundation has commissioned 3 borehole projects to provide potable water for the people of Awering and Jomro districts of the Western region. The project is part of a multi-million-dollar nationwide project being executed in phases. General Manager in charge of sustainability at the GNPC, Dr. Kwame Amoah-Banuakun, commissioned the projects.
Management of the foundation says out of 100 boreholes earmarked for the needy communities across the country, Western region, as host of all the ongoing oil and gas activities in the country, will receive 30, which will represent 30% of the total number of water projects being executed. Addressing the beneficiary communities during the handing over ceremony on Tuesday, General Manager in charge of Sustainability Department of GNPC, Dr. Kwame Amoah-Banuakun, explained the motivation behind the execution of the water projects being executed across the country. He says the 100 boreholes water project has been captured by the 4 mandate core functions of the foundation.
As far as GNPC Foundation is concerned, you can't put value to life. Anything that we do that has to deal with lives, you can't put value to it. So I remember I was making a point about sometimes you drill the borehole, you drill once, you don't find water. You drill a second time, you drill a third time, because we made a promise to the people. Of course, somebody will say, well, the average price of a borehole is this. But by the time you finish the third drilling, you would have exceeded that. So for us, we don't really focus on the cost. We normally don't talk about the value.
The Municipal Chief Executive for Jomoro, Ernest Kofi, who joined the management of GNPC Foundation to commission the projects, assured the communities, mostly farmers, of government support to enhance their welfare and farming activities.
People of Ankasa over the years have been using the stream, the Ankasa River. And I think as part of our medium development plan, we package it as one of them to see what we can do to help them. And quickly when GNPC came in, myself, the assembly member of the area, came together and we selected the air plus some few other communities that are in need of water. So seriously, like you saw, they themselves, the kind of that they are doing in terms of, being happy, the fact that they've been given water. So it's going to relieve them a lot, because where they even be fetching their water, it's a bit in the bush, and then sending children to the place will become a problem.
Some beneficiaries also spoke to Joy Business.
I'm very appreciative about the borehole which has been donated to Ngakan community by GNPC. Initially, the project was to be at Limankrum, where the people needed water most, but it wasn't accessible. I therefore decided to relocate it to Ngakan, this very community. And even here you could see yourself the terrain, the difficulty under which we are operating in terms of our road network.
Water is life. And then what the GNPC people have come, the company has come and just create this borehole. We do appreciate it. It will benefit the people of Ngakan and then the surrounding areas.
That will be a wrap for this afternoon's edition of the Marketplace. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Emmanuel Abwaji.